Okay. Hey everyone, joining us and Charles, of course, joining us today. Thank you for tuning in to this video podcast where Charles and I are going to talk about some of the things that we're both doing to help pave the way forward for CRPS patients, warriors, and caregivers alike. For those of you that uh, are viewing from my channel and miraculously haven't heard of Charles, I want to just introduce him. He has been one of the forerunners when it comes to CRPS with his creation of really what I would consider the only documentary that's showcasing CRPS from the standpoint of someone living through it, called Trial by Fire. And that was honestly the only documentary I saw at the time that made me feel heard and seen as a CRPS patient when I was suffering 10 years ago with it. And so I am just honored to be here with Charles today to talk to him a bit about his upcoming project, and just kind of share stories a little bit and passions that we have moving forward. So, Charles, welcome, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a
Yeah,
true,
I
yeah.
absolutely. The pleasure's mine too. Like I said, I was really in a dark place back then, and that was something that really helped me find a light and move forward. So
Mhm.
I'm very thankful. And actually, with your newest project, Trial by Fire 2, I'd like to know kind of your inspiration behind it. But before we go into that, why don't we just show the trailer to introduce people
Yeah,
to what's coming?
great idea.
All right, here that is.
It's called the suicide disease for a reason. The pain and the depression is so intense that people think the only way out is to take their own lives.
I just remember so many lonely nights just praying to God that He would take my life.
I've seen many people struggle, and I have stopped counting how many there are.
Unfortunately, there is no cure for CRPS. All we can do is try to control it.
There is hope in this journey.
So there you have it. And as you heard at the end of the trailer, there seems to be a message of hope.
Yeah,
Um, so Charles, tell me, with this new project, Trial by Fire 2, what
yeah.
was your inspiration for it?
Chase, the first documentary, I was kind of thrust into really trying to find out what exactly was going on because at that point, what had happened is my mother had CRPS for a few years, and I like probably like a lot of people or loved ones didn't understand it, didn't really know the significance of it, and but she said something that about not wanting to be here anymore, taking her own life or something of that effect. And I'm like, man, this strong Jamaican woman, who has endured so much, that's not like her. She must be going through something. So I went online and did some research, and I went on YouTube. It wasn't a lot out there, but I saw a gentleman, and Chase, he was going through just the worst time, and he was talking about suicidal ideations, and I thought, wow, this is really a thing. Because I used to tell my mom, just go to the gym, work out, or you got to stretch, or you got to, I had no idea what this really was. So when I was immersed into the first season or the first documentary, it was really meeting some of the people who were living with it. And at that point, they were going through ketamine. So a lot of them didn't have many great outcomes per se. They were just, dealing with the ketamine, and they were, having a lot of pain issues, and, some had suicidal ideations, and there wasn't per se at that point a few years back as much hope as there is now, I think. So with this second film, I've met a lot of people, and I've seen some people do very well. I remember there was a young lady who I used to talk to on Instagram, Chase, and she was in bad shape. And I suggested Dr. Rhodes, who has a machine called the Vector machine, and she went to see him. And when I tell you, Chase, literally, this woman went from horrible, horrible shape to losing 20 pounds and gaining back her life and
Wow.
just a total change as a person because of this machine. Um, and then I've seen so many others who, have made amazing changes, but then also just I think there's people like yourself who are doing alternative treatment, and there are other calamari and scramblers and people doing things in Italy who are helping people with CRPS. So I think it's about at times this being your new norm in a way, and
Mm-hmm.
having to do the best with it.
Hmm. Absolutely. And so with this documentary, it sounds like you're showcasing some of the treatment modalities and some of the hope and the recoveries that people have made, or the even just reducing pain to a level where life can be lived in a fulfilling, meaningful way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we're seeing it. I mean, I just
Yeah.
interviewed a young lady the other day who went
Saw
somewhere
that.
in Iowa, Idaho, or something like that, and man, she went from being in very bad shape, Chase, to a zero,
Yeah.
or one. So her life is totally changed and regained. And everything doesn't work for everyone, but I think that in many ways, it's kind of I've done this for a few years now, and
Yeah.
it's not easy. And I think that this is my swan goodbye, where I'm going to pass the buck off to people like yourself who can keep the fight up for CRPS. I think I've
Yeah.
done as much as I really can do, and it's a lot of work,
Yeah.
and at times I get beat up and tossed around, and you're trying to find the motivation to really keep doing it. But then I say, you know what, there's some great people out here who I've literally become great friends with, who
Yeah.
I would never known if it wasn't for CRPS.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, and I think that you've been kind of on a thankless mission in certain ways, looking for answers to help people like your mom and move forward. And I think that, I had a good friend of mine tell me that hope is a delicate thing. And so when you're putting forward hope to people who have lost hope many times, it can be one of those things that people might lash out or be skeptical or worried at first. And I think I myself, 10 years ago when I was dealing with the thick of it, the thick of CRPS, I was there. I was at the point where I was like, you know what, I'll just take all my pills and it'll be the end. And I really had to find a crossroad between giving up essentially and rising out. And thankfully, I chose the latter half, which then led me on the path to become a pain specialist. But it's not easy, that's for sure. And for yourself to hear all these stories and take on and hear about the pain that people are going through, that weighs heavy. And so I can understand why you're at this point where you're saying this is my swan song. This is my, sail off into the sunset. But I think that you're going to bring a lot of people with you into that sunset, and I
Yeah.
think that this second documentary is going to be the catalyst to take a lot of people with you on that ship. And I think that you're going to have shipmates along the way, like myself or like Dr. Rhodes or like Tosh or Sherry, that are helping steer the sails. And so. Um, yeah, I hear about all these amazing treatments, Scrambler, the Vector machine, the
Mhm.
the place that Tosh went to,
Mhm.
um, and and some things from Spiro as well. And one thing I remember when I was going through this was that I was broke, man. There was no way I could afford most of these things, and it really broke my heart. And I was given at that time, like you said, it was ketamine. I was given an appointment 2 years away in, I think, Pennsylvania, and it was at a ketamine to get a ketamine coma, essentially. I think they were going to put me asleep for 2 weeks. Um, and that was really the only option that I was offered. And
Right.
I was turned away by doctors. I was told I was seeking drugs. I was faking my pain. It was all in my head, like all this stuff. Even people in my own profession, physical therapists, which I wasn't at the time, kind of just
Mhm.
looked annoyed to see me.
Mm.
Um, and so
Mm.
I swore to myself, in those moments when I was suffering, that if I ever got better, I'd come back. I'd
Yeah.
come back and I'd help. And
Right.
so that's kind of where I'm at now. And you've seen that with some of my videos.
Yeah.
I have gotten out of pain. It's been 7 years. And I have become a doctor of physical therapy and pain specialist. And then to become a pain specialist, it's an extra 3 years of training. And
Mhm.
then now I'm treating exclusively pretty much CRPS.
Mhm.
Um, what I am hoping to put forward in February to help steer that ship that you're sailing on, is a program that will be affordable to most anyone. Okay,
Mhm.
so I'm talking the price of 2 visits with myself,
Mhm.
the whole program.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's going to be lifetime access to this program. There's going to be a couple versions of it, and that's going to come out in February 1st.
Mm.
So people can look for that at my website, thewindowpain.com.
Mhm.
If you can't wait till February 1st, another thing I offer for people is one-on-one pain coaching. And I want to be the person that most people don't get in the medical field, which is someone
Yeah.
who can listen and be there with you every step of the way.
Mm.
So that's another thing I'm going to be offering. But my objective is not to have this be something that's 12,000, 50,000, or $100,000, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want this to be something for the people like me who were searching for answers but had nothing that they could give to find them. Um,
Yeah.
and so additionally on YouTube, of course, as you've seen, I have a plethora of free resources that you don't have to pay anything for to
Mhm.
check out. I want to touch and help everyone, even those that have lost hope and
Mhm.
are and might lash out or be upset at first. I hope they come around and see things like your documentary or my videos
Yeah.
and find their way out as well into that sunset. And so
And,
yeah, I
and
love
with
it.
that being said, we plan on doing some filming real soon in Houston with you. And I would say I would I, and if it's okay, I think I'd like to find 3 people who are in the Houston area that could be on film that maybe you can do some work with, that we can film when we come that way. So if you're watching this, um, definitely reach out to Chase and share your story and we'd love to at least have a few people come down and maybe get some treatment or have Chase go to that person and get some treatment or even some virtual treatment. But we definitely would love to film that. So um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
love that. And if you're watching this and you are already a current client of mine, that's near Houston or wants to travel down to Houston for an in-person session,
yeah.
then I'd be fully open to that. I want everyone to know that most of who I see is completely virtual, so I can
Mhm.
reach anyone from anywhere. And I'm absolutely honored to even be a part of this upcoming documentary with Charles, because like I said, I remember being all alone and seeing Trial by Fire, the first one, and to get a phone call from Charles saying, "Hey, I've seen what you're doing. I want you in the second one." Just really, Charles remembers I was sitting in my car outside the gym and I was in shock. I was like, "Is this happening?" So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just thrilled. I'm excited for this new year. I really think this is a turning point for CRPS, and I'm looking forward to it.
I hope so because there's so many people who are really just amazing people who are going through it. And I understand that like you said, a lot of people don't even have the funds for um whether it's low cost or more expensive.
Yeah,
But I think that if you look at Tasha's example, she didn't have the money either. You
yeah,
know, she pulled together some last minute money and made it happen. And I think that, that's very important because, this is a condition that, I think my mom kind of gave up hope.
yeah,
And I would try to, suggest treatment to her and, bring people over who maybe could help her do some treatment. And she just just I think she was kind of reserved to the fact that this was going to be her life. And it's kind of sad seeing her now because she's don't want to give too much away, but she's bedridden and
Mm,
a woman who didn't have to be. And I
yeah.
say to her sometimes now, I'm like, I don't get why, you're bedridden, mom. I don't, because while the pain was there, I mean, because she literally can't like even sit up.
Wow.
And just like, I don't understand why this is like this. You're not, you're not, your age isn't to the point where you should be, or you're not, incapacitated to a point where you shouldn't be able to even sit up or move or anything.
Yeah.
So I think there's a space where she just, lost hope. I wish I knew you back then. I wish a lot of other people knew some of these, people like yourself who are doing great things.
Yeah.
Um, because, and it needs to be known. I think, Chase, a lot of times when I make my television shows, I'm fighting for conditions that don't have a voice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the medical system is a mess. And people are making billions and billions of dollars, and companies are making billions of dollars off of the sick people, and they don't even give back to create any advocacy. So, I'm really an advocate, and I use my television shows to advocate for these people. And, I think the things that inspires me the most at times and motivates me is the no's. So when I reach out to people or reach out to a big company and say, hey, listen, you guys make a pain stimulator. I'd love to work with you, and have you guys help us fund this film.
Yeah.
And trust me, out of 20 people, you're going to get 19 and a half no's,
I know
or
it.
so it motivates me to keep fighting and knowing that this condition needs it. And if I don't do it or haven't done it, then there's not too many other people who have a profile
Yeah.
um, that could get it there. So I'm hoping, like I said, with this, I'll be able to expose people like yourself and allow you guys to get the exposure and then run with it. So
Yeah.
uh, and then maybe create some movement, by getting in the right people's hands or the right companies or the right political figures or someone who actually says, wow, I had no idea about this, and I want to help, put some
Move
money in
forward.
finding some solution or help.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And I think you know, I myself in some of the ways I've been trying to help this have received no's. And the what's funny is that, like you said, that no became a blessing because I took that no, and you know what I'm referring to. I took that and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go solo. I'm gonna go on my own. I'm gonna help people. And it's been incredible the number of people. I'm now working with people from Australia, Canada, and the UK. Um, and I'm helping people see improvement and get back to the things that bring them joy.
Yeah,
Um, and so I think, with this documentary you have coming out, the new projects you have, like the reverse longevity project, and everything that you've done with diabetes, I think you're really paving the way to reshape a lot of this, like you said, broken medical industry. I was let down countless times by the medical field, and I
yeah.
decided, you know what, maybe I'll go from the inside and fight it from there. And so here I am on the inside doing the
And,
best I
and let me
can.
and let me ask you, because I think that there is probably a misconception that, because when I think of CRPS, even with Tosh, you know, her treatment was, no medication, no. I think that there's a misconception that you can't treat people with CRPS the way you guys are doing it. Me personally, I'd love to hear, and I'm sure there are people who are listening maybe for the first time, but how you actually got to this point where you use these certain modalities for yourself, but then how you are able to use it for others. When you think of CRPS, you don't think of a cure, you don't think of, lifting any or relieving any real, pain. How did you get to that place?
So what I realized is that, and I think what everyone listening can realize is that the doctors that I was seeing, and that a lot of people have been seeing, A lot of them have never heard of or don't know much about CRPS. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so mainstream doctors. And so what I realized while I was sitting on that couch for years, just trying to survive each day, I was like, you know what? Um, they don't know what's going on, so why should I accept the limitations that they might place on me?
Mhm.
I was told that I would never run, never deadlift, never squat again. I've done all those things this week.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of had a moment where I was like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I was
Mhm.
taking all these pills and you know, not touching my foot in certain ways and being protective. And I was like, it's not working. I'm not getting better. I'm surviving. I'm not thriving. And
Mhm.
so back then I didn't know anything. I was in school for pre-dental. My father's a dentist,
Mhm.
and I didn't know anything. I had barely started college, and I was like, you know what? I can't bend my toes, so why don't I just start there?
Mhm.
And I decided that I'm gonna be in pain anyway, so why don't I just give this a shot? And I did like my first exercise was bend my toes 5 times per day. That's where I
Mhm.
started. And
Mhm.
about 3 weeks later, I was able to touch my foot to the ground for like maybe 10 seconds, and then I just gradually went from there. I
Mhm.
certainly, when I didn't know much about pain, I certainly did some things wrong, and it probably took me a little longer to get better. But now that I've gone through school, I've learned that a lot of the things I did were right. And
Mhm.
so I started taking my patients through that. And then the more I learned about pain and pain science, the more I realized how much psychology and mental health play into this condition as well.
Mhm.
So what happens is people get diagnosed and the doctor tells them, you'll never get better, that you'll deal with this the rest of your life. Just suck it up and take the medicine.
Yeah.
And that alone is something that perpetuates the condition. So if you sprained your ankle and you'd never sprained your ankle before in your life and you knew no one that sprained their ankle,
Mhm.
um, and the doctor said it's never going to get better,
Mhm.
you would just brace for impact. You'd just protect the ankle. And what would happen is you would have an ankle that would possibly heal improperly and you would not feel better for a long time
Mhm.
until you started using the ankle again, and what would change is it would start to heal and do better.
Mhm.
And so CRPS is much more complex than a sprained ankle, of course. But there are avenues that are outside of pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals can be a bridge, but they don't have to be a road.
Mhm.
Um, and there are other avenues outside of that to help get better. So a quick breakdown for you real fast.
Mhm.
We have all these options with CRPS. Spinal cord stimulators. They work
Mhm.
for some, don't work for others.
Mhm.
Nerve blocks. They work for some, don't work for others, right? All of these different things. Ketamine works for some, doesn't work for others. So all of these things have kind of the same objective. CRPS is a malfunction of the nervous system and its processing of stimulus, any stimulus, not just noxious or painful stimulus. And that's why we have these, some people will have issues with lights and sounds. The nervous system is really amped up. So what happens with a nerve block is it blocks the signals coming in.
Mhm.
Okay. What happens with a spinal cord stimulator is it stimulates the nervous system to disrupt the signals coming in. What happens with ketamine, which is initially a horse tranquilizer, it
Mhm.
tranquilizes, it makes you tranquil, calm to
Mhm.
reduce the nervous system activity.
Mhm.
So, with my approach, you can stimulate the spine and the spinal cord and the nervous system by providing the brain feedback and the body feedback,
Mhm.
just by touching it, moving it gently, slowly. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, with my approach, you can tranquilize or calm the nervous system with certain things like doing things you enjoy, spending time with loved ones, family, passions, painting, meditation, NDSR, etc. Um, and SDR. But anyways, all of this stuff kind of becomes intuitive the more you learn about it. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my videos is help people see that sometimes a certain way to, I guess, break free from some of the elements of CRPS are right before our eyes. We just need someone to kind of point at them for us. And
Mhm.
and so that's what I do with my approach is I show people the door and then I guide them to be able to walk through it themselves.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where I come from.
I love that. I love that.
Thanks,
And
man.
how are you, as far as your success rate, what are you seeing with that?
So I would say that 80% of people that I've seen have gotten completely out of pain.
Mm,
And I would say that the 20% that don't
mhm,
at least go on to pursue their goals and dreams in more meaningful lives.
mhm.
Um, and that's the biggest thing with my program. And that's going to be the first thing that we do. Module one in my very inexpensive program in February, but also it's the first thing we do with pain coaching is I have people identify what their goals and hopes are for when
Mm,
they're quote unquote better.
yeah,
Because if we don't have something to drive us forward, if we have no hope for the future, like when a doctor tells us we'll never get better,
yeah,
then everything falls away. And you'll see it in the Facebook groups. You'll see people saying, I have no purpose. I'm so frustrated. I lost myself. I help people find who they are again
mhm,
and move towards that. That
mhm,
is how we pave a road to recovery. Because if we don't have a future that we can look forward to, this is with pain or without pain,
mhm.
then what's the point?
True.
And so my first exercise is an exercise that says, what'll it be like when you're better? And then
Mhm.
they look at all those things that could be better in the future and to ask themselves, what can I do right now
Yeah.
that might be good? Because what happened to me is I stopped doing the things I love because I was just waiting for the pain to go away.
Mhm.
And then I lost myself and I realized the pain's not going away.
Yeah.
Maybe I just try to do the things I love again. And
Yeah.
somehow I found a path. I used to, and Tosh shared this with me. She used to say, I don't know how I'm going to hold my kids. I didn't even have kids or a girlfriend. And I was
Mhm.
like, how am I going to hold my son? I can't, how am I going to play catch with him
Yeah.
because of my foot? And I would cry about it, and now it's possible for me.
Yeah.
Um, I can
Yeah.
drive a stick shift car again, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I help people find again is hope. And I think
Yeah.
that's what your documentary is trying to do. And I think that's what the CRPS community needs.
Yeah. 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 It definitely does. And, and not that we're not gonna feature some stories where you hear, real life things that are going on and people who are still fighting and struggling, because I think we need to understand people need to understand what CRPS is
Absolutely.
on that level too as well. But, and it's not, and when I say hope, I mean, I don't want to, for those who are still struggling, once again, we're going to feature people who are still fighting and still, dealing with CRPS the best they can. So it's not just all, roses and chocolate.
Yeah.
But there is another side. I mean, a good buddy of mine, Ron, who I've known for some time, um, he went through, he has CRPS. And when I say he went through it, I mean he went through it. I mean, almost, had to live with his moving back with his parents,
Mm,
uh, lost everything,
mm.
was in horrible shape, and just hung out with him in Vegas a few months ago, and he's just selling his company for a few $1 million now that he helped build, and
Wow.
he's back on his feet, and he is, still dealing with some pain, but he's found his joy again.
Yeah.
He didn't really have any particular method of getting there, but he's there. So when I think of hope and I see Ron, who, like I said, he lost everything, had to move in with his parents in the basement, and this is a grown man, in his 50s,
Yeah.
and now selling his company for millions and millions of dollars that he built back up, and he's one of the most funnest and nicest and sweetest guys, and we had a blast in Vegas at the boxing match, and so to see him back on his feet really, is amazing. Even when I think of, Sherry, who, I've seen her in days where it wasn't easy, and now seeing her in her peace right now,
Yeah.
uh, the space, even though she's still dealing with CRPS, and trust me, I've dealt with so many, and I think that hope is very important because, I hate to say that they call it the suicide disease, but trust me, Chase, I've had people who, and I meet people and through the condition in the film, and I become associated with them, and they trust me and they reach out, and I've seen people literally, Chase, where I'm like, they're encouraging me. Hey, Charles, keep fighting, don't give up, so on and so forth, who have CRPS. But then I've seen it where somebody reached out to me and said, hey, we remember so and so, she passed away last night.
Mm.
And say that I've had that several times where I've
Yeah.
literally just broken because these are people I've gotten to know, and I'm just more hurt because I'm like, man, I wish they would have just told me something. I would have, got on the phone with them. I would have tried to encourage them. I would have done anything I could have to
Yeah.
try to not let that happen. So I think when we think of hope, even with your program too as well and other programs, that it may not go from a 10 to a 1, but even if it goes from an 8 to a 4, that in itself
Right.
is life changing. So
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I know firsthand the feeling of being there and ready to end it. I was
wow.
standing in my kitchen trying to drink orange juice. I had lost 60 pounds. I went from playing college football to using my mom's old walker that she used when she had cancer. Couldn't touch my foot to the ground, and I'm drinking this orange juice, and I fell, and I spilled the orange juice all over myself. And I
Yeah.
remember my pills; they were up in the cabinet, up in the corner, and I thought to myself, I'll just take them. I had 16 at the time, oxycodone, Nacenta, Lyrica, muscle relaxers, antidepressants, you name it. I was like, I could just take them and it'd be over.
Yeah.
But I realized that I that wasn't a choice that could make. And so, I want people that you've spoken to and some of the people that have called and reached out to me to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Um, Charles and myself and many other people are here for you,
Yeah.
and we want to help pave a way forward. And and we're mindful of the fact that you're suffering. And so, um, Charles, I'm just excited. I think for the future, and I think, like you said, hope is a fragile thing, and we got to be delicate with trying to bring it forward for people.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a possibility to thrive again, even from, I mean, I slept in the bed with my father at 22, 23 years old because I was scared to be alone. And that was from a college football athlete to that in a
Yeah.
matter of months was humiliating and sad, and I think that there's a lot of people there right now, and I want you to know that that hell, I've walked through it. I grabbed some flames, and I want to lead people out of it now.
Yeah.
So that hell doesn't have to be forever. Pain doesn't have to be your prison. It can be your power. So yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Charles. This has
Yeah.
been
Yeah,
a
man.
pleasure. I'm so excited to work together moving forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me
and if
let me do say hi to a few people. I
Yeah,
definitely want
please do.
Sherry. She has been an amazing friend and fighter and soldier for what we've been doing. Sweet lady, sweet lady. She has my heart.
Yeah.
Donna Tribble and her husband Thomas,
Mm,
Alana and her husband. She's in Canada. Um, uh, uh, a few others that really have. Tosh has been very supportive. Uh, TL Andrews has been a ton, but and I also want to thank Brian Pope from the Cochran Law Firm. He is actually a CRPS lawyer based out of Texas, who is doing. He has a real passion for people with
yeah, he
CRPS,
does.
and it's from the heart. So if you're dealing with any issues and need a lawyer, reach out to Brian Pope. He's a great guy. He's helping us at least get some of this film completed, and but he could also help you too as well, because there's a lot of people who can find relief with if they have a case, and it may be able to help them cover some bills and maybe live a decent life and things like that. But one thing I will say too as well, and I hope you keep all of this, but
Of
you
course.
for those who are watching, please, the only thing I ever ask is just to share. And I say that with Chase's videos too as well, um, because a lot of times we post something and I know people are looking and they'll read it and they'll like it, but they don't share. and it doesn't cost anything. It only takes 1 second. We're putting a lot of work and hard effort and passion into this, and we just need you guys to help us get the word out, because remember, there can't be a lot of change if there's not a big voice, right? So we have to kind of be a small group that helps make a big voice. And if it's just a share or a like, or, even if you send it to people and they don't want to listen, even if you think that you don't have a voice, just continue to share, leave a message, because sometimes a message on one of these videos can really go a long way for someone else. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that. So,
No, and I agree, Charles. I've connected with Donna, with Sherry, with Tosh. Um, Brian's a fantastic lawyer, so yes, do reach out to him. Other people, my current coaching clients, Christina, Kelly, Matt, Janice, everybody, I want you to know that we're moving forward here. And just like Charles said, please share. If you know someone else suffering with CRPS that needs hope, help, answers, options, take and hit the like button on my channel, on Charles's YouTube channel. Take it and share it in the CRPS groups if you can, because what happens is these CRPS groups, they have thousands of people.
yeah,
A lot of times these videos get lost in the fray,
yeah,
and people are asking the same questions over and over again. And so Charles and I were making videos to answer those questions. So if you can share this around, you can start getting people answers. You're helping people just like yourself, and Charles and I would greatly appreciate that.
yeah.
I know Charles is a super busy man. I myself, I'm working 12-hour shifts, and then when I'm not working, you'll see me on the Facebook groups. I'm pretty much always doing CRPS. This is my passion. So, yeah, share it. And again, thank you so much, Charles, for all that you've done.
Yeah, thank you.
And if after this documentary it is your time to sail into the sunset, just know that we're going to be there paddling the ship with you, man. And you've led the charge, and now you've got a team forming around you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Keep rocking, and hopefully I'll see you real soon in Texas, and we'll get
Sounds
you
good.
added to the documentary.
That sounds fantastic. Where can they find you, Charles? Where should they search for you?
I would say just Google my name, Charles Mattocks. That's probably the easiest. Mattocks. I mean, I'm all over the place, so it won't be hard to track me down. And if you
Right,
have
man.
yes, obviously we have a beautiful page over there on the Trial by Fire page, almost 8,000 people,
Yes.
yeah, so
There's a trial by fire page on Facebook that you can like and get updates for the documentary. If you are looking for me for my program that comes out February 1st, or if you don't want to wait that long and you're interested in one-on-one pain coaching, you can join the Window Pain Facebook group or go to the Window Pain, that is PAIN.com. And reach out to me anytime. If you want to reach out to me on Facebook, you can also do that there. Add me as a friend if you want to. I'm open. This is my passion. This is what I do, much like Charles. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video moving forward. Have
see
a
you soon.
blessed one.